I want to make sure. I want. I don't know. Sometimes I usually make things, and then eventually, after I'm looking at them, I realize, like today. Now you see, scheduled for. Why is it scheduled? Why is it scheduled? Is it right? Am I hearing myself correct? Yeah, right. I hope it continues like that. Thing is, today games. Today I had a couple of games, and some of the games are really, really astonishing. Like, if you have seen my prediction, I made a prediction yesterday. If you go back to my videos, you'll see game week two predictions, which I stated. I said Arsenal are going to win. I said I'm not sure about Man City and Spurs because Spurs are looking so good. But then Man City, whenever they turn up, they turn up. But when they don't, they don't. And that has happened today. Now, the other games were, Sunderland versus Burnley, which to me is a weird game because I thought Sunderland had prepared so much for this season. I thought they were following that Nottingham Forest script where if you go to Premier League, you leave alone the championship players. You try and get a lot and a lot and a lot of signings, which will help you. Signings that have Premier League experience and big league experience, not just Premier League, but other leagues, top five leagues, which will help you to win a couple of games. But then today they're losing against Burnley, which has made me realize that sometimes whenever a team comes from, down there, and this is also what I've seen with Leeds, like sometimes they usually retain that the way they were playing in championship, they usually come up and then they start playing, especially when they meet oppositions with they think they are going to defeat. Like today, if you comparing if you compare the way Sunderland played with West Ham versus the way Sunderland played with Burnley, it is a little different because versus West Ham, they were not trying to dominate the game. With Burnley, they were like they saw themselves like they are the bigger team, which meant they were trying to dominate the game, and they lost, which was 1-0, but then again, it's still a loss. With Leeds, and it's the same for that coach. He was coaching Norwich, I think, some few years ago, and some pundits were warning him, like, if you come to Premier League, you should forget about dominating the game. You should forget because here's the thing, like, it's all about players. It's all about players. That's why every every team usually signs when Man City feels they're down. They don't just change the tactics. Managers usually realize that it's not just about the tactics, it's not about the team, it's about the players. If you get the best players, even with a not so good tactics, you will still win. That's why Real Madrid were winning all those Champions League, again versus when they were being coached with Zinedine, when they were being coached with Ancelotti. It wasn't like the coach was bringing a lot of things in their, tactics, how they were playing, how they were defending, how they were attacking. It was just like, you are good players. If you apply yourself, you win this game. Now, with Leeds, with a lot of teams that are coming up from the championship, whenever you know, they come here, you notice, like, while in championship they were among the better teams, they will most likely have bigger possession. They will most likely be the teams that are playing, they are controlling the game, they are scoring, they have the confidence, they are not trying to defend. Now when they come here, If they come with the same mentality, if they come thinking they can still play the same game they were playing in championship here, they will most likely lose. When you are a team who has very few top players, your best bet is to defend. Defend for your life, defend, and only hit an opposition, especially as good an opposition as Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, even Man United, Spurs. You can only play with them, you can only hit them on counter attack. You cannot start a game and think that you are going for them, possession versus possession, dribbling versus dribbling, just controlling the game versus. They will hurt you. They always have the best players. It's always like that. The team at the top usually have the best players. They might lack two or three or four places, or they might lack world-class players in right back, in the mid, probably striking, but in all the other areas they have the best players. So if you are trying to beat them on who's playing the best, you'll always lose. And I think that was the problem today with Leeds, because they were playing like they are equal to Arsenal. You can't be equal to Arsenal. You can't be equal to Arsenal if you don't have, if you haven't spent 60 on Eze, if you haven't spent 60 on Madueke, if you haven't spent 40 on Coquelin, who is not even playing, if you haven't spent 30 on Zubimendi, 30 on Nogard, and you have a host of other players. You spent 100 on Declan Rice. If you haven't spent that money, it means your players are most likely valued at 20. And the valuation is not just on who looks good, who dresses good. It's usually on footballing ability. So if your players are valued 20, you should know that their footballing ability is not as good as those players who are valued at 100, and you should act accordingly. That's what I wanted from Leeds. Like the way you are playing even with Nottingham Forest, it wasn't very good. That's why you were beaten 3-1. You are trying to dominate them. You can't dominate a good team. And it's the same thing for now. I'm not talking about Sunderland and Burnley, because I thought they were all coming from, the, what do we call it? The championship. And I don't know about them. Their championship team. Championship team just play the way they are playing. If any one of them loses, it's not just that because one has a better players than the others. It's just, that day your tactical or the way you wanted to play was very different. Now, for the next game, I made a video about it, but I realized that the sound, and that's why I always think I have to test the sound before continuing with the video. The sound was not good, but the thing is, whatever I wanted to say was, while Man City have been a top team, don't know, somebody's texting me, but I can't see it now. Man City have been a top team, and Guardiola has been playing the same way. He has changed a little bit with the striking. He has changed a little bit with the defending. He has changed all the players, bought new players, been others. But then the way they're playing is just possession football. It's just passing, 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 passing. Every now, passing here, passing there, passing for 30 minutes. And in the hope that, some players will try, be aggressive, leave their possession, leave their position, like lose, get tired. But then a lot of teams just have been playing with that same way from back then when Guardiola has been here for 9 years, I think. Now, if you are a coach and you are playing with Guardiola in 2016, 20, was it 2016 or 2017? 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. At some point, you'll realize how to get the better of Man City. You cannot be winning the same way every now and then, and expect that teams will not be able to find a way to stop you. Now, at some point, Guardiola might, and it's how I had said at the beginning of the video, if Man City clicks in a game, they are usually ruthless. They'll beat you 5, they'll beat you 6. But a coach that knows how to stop Man City usually just stops Man City. And it started with Wolves at some time back, like probably 3 years, 4 years ago. And then some other coaches just started using the same plan. Brentford, we had what team is this? A couple of teams, even Arsenal, like, and right now we have a plethora of teams, and we saw it last year when a lot of teams were just willing to, they were they were not fearing Man City. Like, Man City comes, we go head to head with them. We defend whenever they get the ball, but whenever they lose the ball, we are attacking them. We are not trying to play to their thing. Like, you are not trying to play like we are struggling to play against them, like we are fearing them. And that's how has made a lot of teams start beating Man City. And it started a year before, and then last year it was just, and people started saying, you know, this is just a one-off with Guardiola. Like, he will buy new players and then it will be good for, they will come on, they will start winning again. And today has demonstrated that they're not that good. And even in the Club World Cup, even in the friendlies, the preseason friendlies, there are two preseason friendlies, Palermo and which is the other one? And all through all those games, I've just shown that Man City is not the Man City of 2018. It's not the Man City of 2022. It's not the Man City of even 2021. Like, if a team prepares for them, if a team is willing to defend and is able to attack with a lot of guys, then in the past, all those midfielders, all those wingers will come back and try to defend. But I think those people are so tired. Like, a lot of them are tired, the older ones, and the new ones are not willing to come back and defend and help the defenders. And again, the defenders are not the same defenders that we expected. Like, in the past, they had company. Diaz at some point was so good. Then you had Ederson, then you had Walker, and then you had on the other side, like, Mendy. Everybody was built, athletic, they will run back, defend, shoulder people. But right now you have Ake, you have Nunes. You see, just from initially, the athleticism is minus. Like, if a right back is the same weight as the winger, then they will not be able to push him over. Now, in if they're not as quick as the winger, then they will not be able to push him over, and they will not be able to run with him, either run in front of him, either overtake him, either just overtake him, just, come back and tackle and get the ball. And that's why they are always, every time an opposition gets the ball, and not just today, even last week, like, whenever the opposition will get the ball, it always looks like they are going to concede a goal, and then sometimes the keeper saves them. But right now, they have Trafford, and Trafford, the problem with him is he hasn't done a lot. He's coming again from the championship, so he hasn't, like, faced world-class strikers, world-class wingers, world-class shots, and is now just trying to get the confidence. And confidence for a keeper is one thing. If you have ever, even play, even in the amateur leagues, you'll know that whenever your team gets scored twice and the keeper feels like he would have done. He should have done something. He should have saved a goal. He should have done. It always just sticks at the back of his head. So somehow that can ruin. If you go back to Liverpool, the way that their keeper lost, you could say, lost his career. It was just from he was a high flying keeper, but then that Champions League final just made him, like, it really crushed him. Mendy coming to Chelsea and then losing some of the things really crushed him. And that is what usually happens with the keepers. Now, with the Trafford, at this point, just coming from Ederson to Trafford, and everybody's expecting him to be that goalkeeper. I don't think he's going to do. If Man City doesn't sign Donnarumma, I'm so sure they are going to suffer this season. They are going to suffer this season a lot, a lot. They are only, they are only, they are only, the only way to at least even remain in top four is to sign a good keeper like Donnarumma kinda. Like somebody who will die for the team, somebody who will save the team. Because right now there are not many defenders who are capable of saving that Man City defense. They're selling Akanji. Now they'll remain with, Vardiol, Stones, Diaz, Ake at the CB. Then Ant Nouri and Nunes. That defense doesn't look, on the paper, it may look good names, big names, but then a person who can just defend without, a huge defending midfielder. The only person who I can depend on should probably be Vardiol. Those other ones, Stones has shown me in Man City, has shown me in England that he can't be depended on. Ake can play as a right back, a left back, but as a left center back, no. He doesn't have the physicality to do that. Now, he might play if it's just about passing the ball and moving around. But whenever there's a corner, whenever strikers are coming, whenever there's a counter attack, whenever people are pushing in your box, that's how Man City gets scored, because they don't have the people to really defend at the box. Now, the other games were, I think, Aston Villa. Aston Villa lost. Did they lose? They drew with the other game. They drew in last week. This week, I think they lost. I'm not sure. I should check. I should check. Aston Villa is one team that always come. They usually start late. They usually start. Oh yeah, versus Brentford. They usually start to realize that they are in the battle late. Somehow, even last season, if Aston Villa they just picked it up from game one, then they would have been among the top four. But then they just think, whenever you are playing for mid-table and you are a good team, and these are the games that we are going to win, these are the games that we are going to lose, these are the games that we are likely going to draw, then it doesn't make sense for you to like really push. But if you are going for the title, if you are going for the Champions League spot, if you are a small team and you'll probably be in the relegation zone, it is very important for you to always start the season very good. It's important for you to get, and that's why I thought Arsenal, you can see even my title. I'm not just saying Arsenal are ready for this thing, but in the first game, them winning against Man United in that first game, especially how they played, it just showed they were willing to go, you know, as hard as they can to get any win in the first game, as hard as they can to get the 3 points. And those points are usually important. And it's why I castigated, I talked negatively about as Chelsea drawing with Crystal Palace, because it can only take only those 2 points, only those 2 points. Whenever, be it in the first game, be it in the second game, and you feel like this is a game that we need to win, you don't have to say, like, you know what? Oh, Crystal Palace are like this. You are going to face them probably at the mid of the season, and you'll realize if you lose those 2 points, you're not going to get them back. There's no way you are going to get them back. And it's important for you, if you are going for the league, to just take those 3 points. Now, Arsenal and Spurs have 6 points. Liverpool have again showed that they are willing to go to the that to just get the points, especially them. And it was in the 86th minute. And you see how they were playing on Friday against the previous Friday against Bournemouth. And they were doing everything. And it was the first game. It's the first game where you think, these teams, they can let it loose. But they were doing anything to get the 3 points, like it's a game of life or death. That's how you know contenders. That's how you know, like, these teams are prepared to get as much points as they can. These teams, the only time they'll be losing a point, you'll say that they really fought for this game. They really fought for this game, but they lost just this amount of points. And it's why I think Arsenal and Liverpool are like real title contenders. Now, Spurs is just good. It's probably a new coach bounce, which they have had it for quite some time. They had it with, who's the other, Ange Postecoglou something. Now they have it with Frank, and you don't know, are they good or what are we basing on? What are we basing on? Because last week they won 3-0. This week they have beaten Man City 2-0, but I'm not banking on Man City, because at any good day, any team can beat Man City, even Sunderland. At any good day, if they catch you on the wrong day, they'll beat you badly. But if you catch them when they are just struggling, when they are, trying to show their things. But then, Spurs, they have 6 points. Now, I can't bet on Spurs. I can't bet on a manager. That's what I said when we had Pochettino last season. Now, Pochettino has won a number of cups, but sometimes the mentality of a coach is usually something that brings you down, because a coach who, and that's what I thought, even with Klopp with Pep, Klopp will have won probably more Premier Leagues against Pep if he had, somebody like a mentality like Mourinho, a mentality like where you feel like if you lose, you feel sad. You feel sad if you lose a Premier League. You feel something has been snatched from you, where you feel like this thing belongs to me. I don't think, even as good as Klopp was with the Premier Leagues, I don't think he felt these things belong to me. Just think that they were so good. They were so good that just built a huge team, a big team with Salah, with I don't know, Mane, at the mid, everybody, Van Dijk, Carlison. It was such a good team that any coach would have won with it. Klopp had that Gen pressing mentality of managing people, trying to talk to people, trying to be good to people. I think he just needed that stubbornness of saying, like, I'm not losing this thing. We can fight. And that's why he was getting defeated and still smiling with the other coach. Like Guardiola wins the Premier League and then is there, celebrating with them, just handshaking. And it's the same thing that you see with certain coaches, like even Spurs. I don't think he has the mentality. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But if you haven't won anything, if you haven't, I have not felt you like being very very vicious. Very this time I felt Maresca like being very angry, especially when Anslot was saying, Maresca has this team, has this or this player or this player, and then he came there angry and saying, I don't want to play these games. You feel the coach is not playing these games. If you are winning, you are winning. If I'm winning, I'm going to win. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm not trying to be your colleague. I'm not trying to be the guys that 20 years, 10 years from now will be hugging each other and saying, yeah, we were doing something in Premier League. No. If I'm trying to win this thing, I'm trying to win this thing. And it's important to get a coach like that. That's why Pochettino will not work. That's why Potter could not work. And that's why I think it's the problem with Spurs and Frank. Because if he had shown in the past that he was willing to go to the dirt to win something, then we'll say, you know what, you look like you can win the Premier League. That's about it. That's about it. Now the other game was Wolves against, was it Bournemouth? Yeah, I even saw that game. Wolves against Bournemouth, which Semenyo really, really played that game, and I think I'm going to add him into my FPL. I don't think he scored. The person who scored was a deflection, but they won 1-0. Wolves got a red, and then Wolves is another candidate. I'm not saying Bournemouth is good, but they were defending a lot. But Wolves is another candidate for relegation. Now it's two teams, two game weeks, 0 points, -4, and they're really struggling. West Ham, Wolves, I'm so sure the two teams, Burnley, Leeds, will still be there fighting relegation. And right now, the huge Man United, they will play tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, they will play tomorrow, but they're deep down in the relegation. If they get defeated, it will be a relegation, start of a relegation battle. Last season, they were just two points of the relegation. And they have a lot of huge teams in the coming fixtures until after the international break. That's when they'll start facing the teams that we call, the teams that are below 15, below the traditional 16 teams that are usually go to relegation and back, relegation and back, relegation and back. Now, do I think I have talked with Man United fans, and because of who they have signed Mbeumo, they have signed Kona, they have signed Sesko, they have signed, who's the other guy they have signed? Or they're planning to sign Baleba, they're trying to sign another. I'm not sure they'll be signing any other person because it's only 7 days until the end of the transfer week. Now, while on paper, I don't know even if on paper they look good. They might look good on paper if you are a casual game viewer. If you watch just for weekend some certain games and you hear a lot of names, you hear Sesko, you hear Mbeumo, you hear it's cool, nice here is scoring versus. You may think they are good on paper, but if you are always on the screen watching these games, you know that they have a huge problem than what they are trying to say, because sometimes you hear some of their fans saying they're going for the Premier League and you wonder, do you even know your team? Like, your team will be lucky if they get above position 6. I'm just saying, like, Amorim will be doing some huge miracle if Man United gets to position 6 or above. It will be one of the huge miracle. I'll come here and say, like, Amorim should be given that. Do they say PFA? PFA is for players, but coach of the year. If Man United at the end of this season goes to position 6, position 5, position 4, I'm so sure they're not going to go to position 3. I'll be here saying Amorim should be given the coach of the season, because that team is not good for any person who is not casual, for any person who's watching these teams every weekend, for any person who's watching Bournemouth, their players, Brooks, Tavernier, and all these other guys, Senesi, I don't know, Semenyo, going to Nottingham Forest, you watch Chris Wood, you watch all those guys, you go to Newcastle, you watch them, you watch the Elanga, you watch, you turn, you even go to Brentford, Wisa. Okay, Wisa is not playing for them right now, but you see, you go to Aston Villa and you are seeing the Calvin, you'll realize vis-a-vis, even player versus player with Aston Villa, just from defending, from midfield, from the goalkeeper, it will just tell you that, Man United are not yet there. They have done certain steps. They are trying to control themselves. They are trying to control who they are letting in their club, but they are not there. They need a lot and a lot of signing and a lot of good coaching and a lot of prayers. Yeah, we need to pray for Man United. Now, any other team that we are really concerned with them again, on Saturday, not on Saturday, on Monday, we have the big clash of, I think Man United is also a big clash. What team is Man United meeting? Man United is meeting some. There's a good. Let me check. Fulham. Man United is meeting Fulham tomorrow. Fulham is a huge team. It's one of the, upper mid-table team. And then we'll also have Newcastle versus Liverpool. And then tomorrow again, Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest is another good game. And then Everton versus Brighton. Everton is another team that every year since 2022 has always been one team that we thought would be in the relegation, but they always survive. I don't know. Probably it's because of their name. They have the history. They have a huge name, and they just don't want to be relegated, especially when Liverpool is trying to win the Premier League. That's what usually keeps them around. But they're a team which, if you look it closely, from 2022, they should have been relegated at one point. Anyway, that's up to me. I really feel bad that one of my the video that I made telling Pep Guardiola how bad he has been for these 7 years and how he has ruined football. Just out of nowhere, the audio is not audible. I just feel it's Pep's demons haunting me. It's Pep's demons plus Man City demons haunting me. They don't want me to tell him the truth. But anyway, I'll still make that video this week. And in fact, I'll be very harsh and I'll tell him the truth. Anyway, nice day. And subscribe if you haven't.